Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Boobies and Newbies. You can follow us at Boobies Podcast on both Instagram and Twitter. And if you'd like to support the podcast and get a little extra bonus Boobies content every month, you can support us on Patreon at Boobies Podcast.
Novice romance readers to think outside the dick in a box and brave the unbridled world of erotica. I'm your host, Kelly Reynolds, and today we're doing things a little differently for this Sexy Spotlight episode. Our Sexy Spotlight series typically highlights a specific topic, issue, or theme within romance novels or the romance community. This month's theme, we're talking book club. Some of our listeners might remember Michelle Jewell from our Duke by Day, Rogue by Night review. Michelle reached out a while back for some romance book recs for her ladies book club. And not only was I excited to offer some suggestions, but we decided to podcast the September book club meeting. So please join me in welcoming the ladies from SheSquad LA Book Club. Welcome, ladies. Yeah, so as everyone, a collective woo. As everybody listening can tell, we've definitely got more than one or two people in the room today. We're coming in at what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and a dog. Yeah, so 10. A whopping 10. So I have to say, let's talk about SheSquad LA Book Club. Tell me where SheSquad LA came from to start with, and I'll turn it over to Jill, who I'm assuming is the founding member?
Yes.
Oh, how exciting.
Thank you. But yeah, so it's just a group for women in LA, just a way to make friends, and we have a private Facebook group where we chat about all sorts of things, like anything that anyone wants to post about, and then we have events like a couple times a month or so, and one of our ongoing ones is the book club, which has been a lot of fun. So yeah.
And that's SheSquad, not Cheese Squad.
Yeah, but
just for anybody.
Can be Cheese Squad.
What are some of the other events that SheSquad LA does?
Well, it varies a lot, but we have done a couple meditation and brunch events lately, and then we just do all sorts of different things. We did like a mani-pedi day, a cupcake decorating day.
Oh, that's
fun. And like dinners, brunches, random,
all
anything.
The wonderful things that make LA.
Yeah,
that sounds fun. I like that.
Oh.
And as far as the book club goes, and this is for anybody in the group, why did you join book club? Like, why this specific group of women? Why this book club? And introduce yourself, please, as you say something, so people might be able to identify your voice.
I can start. I met Jill a few months ago. And I joined because a lot of my friends were getting married and having babies, and I was like, nobody can hang out. I babysit. And I also was at a point in my life where I had a lot more free time, like I was done with school and all these things, and then I was like, where are my friends now that I'm ready to hang out? So that's how I met, and it was on the west side, it was nearby, and I came to one event, and everybody was so nice and so welcoming, and they are at every event that we go to, just really inclusive, so.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. Who else wants to share their feelings?
I can share. My name's Rachel. I've been part of SheSquad for probably over a year, maybe even close to 2. And I started with the baking event, which was really fun. And then for a long time, I had a cousin that was part of a book club, and I was always super jealous because I was like, how do I get, involved with a book club? And then I think another member had brought it up.
Yeah. And someone suggested a book club.
Yeah. And then I was like, okay, 2 for 1. So I'm really excited to be part of it. I think this is my 4th or 5th, but romance is new. So I'm
awesome. Well, we'll have plenty of time to talk about that too. Who else from the SheSquad gang?
I'll go. I'm Hillary, and I had been looking for a book club for a really long time before I ever even heard of SheSquad, and then I started going to some dinners and brunches with the girls from SheSquad, and it was a lot of fun, and then someone brought up book club, and I had been trying to read a book a month on my own anyway, so this just added to it. So now I always think I'm going to read 2 books a month, but that never happens.
You'll get there.
Yeah,
But the important thing is that you're setting goals for yourself too, so that's great.
And actually achieving them finally. Because, I used to say every year I would say, I'm going to read a book a month or finish a book a month. I read a lot, I just don't finish.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So this has been great because it gives you a goal. And you have to, well, you don't have to, because we
it's very casual.
Yeah, we're super casual. You can
there will be no tests.
Exactly. But it gives you that added incentive to finish in time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. How about as far as, obviously, I'm going to assume everybody here loves to read. They love to maybe read a variety of things. What are some of the other books or genres that y'all have read for the not for the podcast, that y'all have read for SheSquad before?
It's definitely been quite a variety. We did Michelle Obama's autobiography. We did Where the Crawdads Sing, which I really loved, and a couple kind of more thriller mystery type things.
Last month.
So yeah, just kind of all over the place.
Is there some sort of decision process when you choose the book, or is it just like everybody kind of throwing in ideas?
Everyone just kind of chimes in with ideas.
Yeah, and then we vote.
It's very casually.
Yeah, very casually.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Good.
I feel like the group is always very considerate. Like we've done this. Let's try sort of this type of book, and
yeah, there's not usually that much discussion about it. It's just like someone will suggest a book, and everyone's kind of
that
agrees
sounds
on it.
good.
So it seems like it's more about less about the book and more about just kind of being in each other's company and surrounded by like-minded women. A great place to come together and hang out.
Yeah.
Yes.
And trying something different. You might not know of a particular genre, and then you read it, and you're like, oh, I actually really like this kind of
Right.
book.
Right. No, that's
Opens
awesome.
new doors, yeah.
Good. Okay, let's see. What else? Oh, I was going to say, do you know what your next upcoming book is going to be? Or are we focused more on the one today, and then we go from there?
Well, later today we'll chat about it probably, and probably someone will suggest something, and we'll all say it sounds good.
Great. Okay, cool.
It's usually Hover.
Yeah.
Very good.
And is it safe to say that this was the first romance that SheSquad LA Book Club read?
It is.
Okay. Hopefully not the last. I hope it's not the last. But let's talk about the book itself. So the book we're going to be discussing today is UnLucky in Love by Cary, Hart. This is a standalone friends to lovers romance released fairly recently, just in August 2019, and is available on Amazon for $3.99 Kindle edition. Did anybody pick up the paperback?
No.
It's not. I'm not shaming you if you didn't. I know a lot of guests we've had on the show prefer the paperback copy to a Kindle, but
I usually do, but it wasn't out.
Yeah.
It was only available on
We
Kindle.
got this one fresh off the presses. They had just released this when we decided on it. And this is also the first book in Cary Hart's Hotline Hookup series. And I don't think there's any dates yet on when the next books are coming, but I think if you've read this book, it's pretty clear who the main characters of the next few books will be. Maybe some of you picked up on it too, but in romance, a lot of romance series, when it's labeled as a series, they revolve around kind of the same cast of characters, like a shared universe. So I have my guesses that the next few books are going to be about Mal and CJ. That would be my guess, at least. So we'll have to see. I'd never read Cary Hart before reading UnLucky in Love, but this book we chose because it was on many most anticipated to be read books for the romance genre for 2019, and it had just been released, so it seemed like perfect timing. I'm trying to remember what some of the other books I gave the group to choose from. Do you remember what the other books were? There were. I gave you
There was 4.
variety.
Yeah.
There was historical. There was definitely a historical romance.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
I think there was a lesbian romance.
Oh, yeah. That's the one that they're doing with, if you've been to the Ripped Bodice in Culver City, they're the all-romance bookstore here in Culver City. And they're doing that. It's part of the Great Romance Read. It's where everybody across, America is reading this book, but that's not the one we chose. For those of you that voted to read Unlucky in Love, was there a reason you selected this specific book over the others?
I did not vote this one.
Yeah. I felt like the cover kind of seemed like approachable, and I don't know, it just seemed like a kind of rom-com cover, so I was like, oh, this seems familiar.
Okay.
That was kind of my thought process.
Yeah. Anybody else?
I think for me it was kind of like a no-brainer. Like I didn't have to think about history. I didn't have to know any background about the history of the historical one. I would have been fine with the lesbian romance, but as I think the cover too was just kind of like, this sounds like a popcorn, and I'm not really into romance. So I was like, maybe we'll kind of step it,
So it seemed like more of sort of like the safer bet of like, if you're just kind of starting romance, this might be the way to go with it.
Kind of, yeah.
Okay, that's fair enough. That's fine. There's no wrong answers. This is a safe space. So I'll just ask everybody this, and if people just want to go around and kind of, throw in what they have to say. Had you read a romance novel before reading this book? And why don't we just start with you, Michelle?
Yeah, I have. What was the name of that one?
Duke by day, rogue by night. Yeah, so Michelle appeared in another episode, so she clearly has read at least one other romance.
Yeah, I've read one. Mixed reviews on that one.
That's putting it nicely.
Yeah.
I feel like.
I don't remember what our final grades were, but they were not strong for that book.
Again, putting it nicely. That was definitely one of our, I feel like, lowest reviewed books. So if you haven't listened to that episode, it's worth checking out if you're looking for something a little different than our usual fare. Okay, so at least one from you.
Mm-hmm. I have not. No.
No. Okay, first time romance reader.
I have. I read 50 Shades of Grey.
Okay.
Which is pretty juicy, but I think, nothing in that realm anytime since. So yeah, this is a new romance read for me.
Okay.
Yeah, same for me. I read the trilogy of 50 Shades, and I think when I was like a teenager, I probably read a few romance books, but I just don't remember. Nothing stands out in my mind.
Got it. Good.
I haven't really. I think in like middle school, I read a couple of those like Harlequin. I don't know why.
Jamie!
I feel like one of my friends like thought they were so good, and I checked them out, but nothing since then.
Okay.
This one.
Yeah, that's my first. I read like the juiciest parts of 50 Shades, like the articles where they were like, let's read like steamy sections, but I never like dove into the series, so I was like, that's enough for me, thank you.
Good.
I think for me, I dabbled in 50 Shades of Grey. I'm a great starter on the books, but I'm not a great finisher.
Seems to be a recurring theme with this group.
I think when I was growing up, like maybe Barbara Delinsky. I don't know if she's a romance. I mean, that's like throwing it back, right?
That's an oldie but goodie.
Yeah, I recall reading her. Nicholas Sparks. He's a romance, right?
If that's romance,
I'm not going to answer. Yeah. No, that's a constant debate amongst the romance community. Because generally, at least everyone within Romance-landia, as we call it, is very much a believer in the fact that a romance has to have a happily ever after. An HEA. No. If it doesn't have an HEA, it doesn't qualify as romance.
Okay, then no, he's not romance.
Yeah.
He's not happy.
Sorry, Nick.
Yeah.
There's a couple of book series that I like that fall into romance, but they have more of the thriller or mystery built into it, and one of them is the Celestia series by Addison Moore.
It's a cool name.
Series,
yeah.
And then the other one I really like is the Rose Gardner Mystery series. So
okay.
I can't remember the author's name off the top of my head, though, for that.
That sounds cool, though. I like those names of the series. Okay, cool. So it seems like everyone is pretty much a newbie in the Boobies and Noobies romance reading this time around, so that's great. I'm curious, for those of you that read 50 Shades, or even the excerpts from 50 Shades, did you ever see, there was, I think it was BuzzFeed, somebody did like the article where it was like, quote from 50 Shades, or quote from, like Charles Manson case. Like it was like something about, it was some sort of murder case versus quotes from 50 Shades, and I kid you not, I got like half of them wrong, because it could go either way. I'm
gonna search that right now.
It's really funny. It's really funny. For those of you who did read 50 Shades, I'm curious, and this is something we've talked a lot about on the podcast, is kind of why that series, for some reason, is sort of the one that, like, stands out in, like, the lexicon. Like, everybody is, even if they don't read romance, like, very aware of that series, at least. So I'm curious, for those of you that have read it, why that series? Like, why, or after reading it, did you want to read more romance, or was it just kind of you wanted to see what was up with everybody talking about it?
I think that one was particularly steamy. What is it? There was a lot of bondage and S&M?
BDSM,
BDSM, yeah. So I think that one got a lot of attention, and I didn't think the writing itself was particularly good.
Oh, it's not.
No. It was very basic for me.
Yeah.
And I kept waiting for the writing to get better over the series, and it didn't.
How'd that work out for you?
Yeah, I mean, it was steamy, and it was definitely like a page turner, but I just kept wanting more, you know? But I think the character development was pretty good, and there was still romance built into it, even though it was very sexy and edgy. They did have a love and a passion for each other, and I think people want that passion.
Oh,
so that's kind of what they're looking for. If you weren't getting that, you were delving into that book series for sure.
Cool. Who else? Anybody else on the 50 Shades train?
I definitely think it was probably the BDSM mixed with romance.
Yeah.
Because, you know, in any other book I've read, that's never, you know, even if that's never come up. So, you know, it was very, it was catchy in that way. The way it mixed the two.
It's so interesting to me because there are so many romance novels that incorporate BDSM. So many. Like, so I mean, the fact that one became so famous, I don't know what, I really still to this day wonder, like, I don't know why this one, I think it was because it was fan fiction for Twilight, that it already kind of had this, like, built-in audience, but these are the things I wonder about. But we're not going to talk about 50 Shades of Grey. We're not going to talk about Twilight. We're definitely not going to talk about Nicholas Sparks. We are going to talk about UnLucky in Love. And before we continue, let me give everyone just the brief Amazon synopsis of the book so they are caught up and up to date with us. Here we go. Getting lucky is a phrase I could barely say without blushing. Yep, I'm that girl, the one my friends call Goody Two-Shoes. But good girls don't finish first. They get dumped. This is so obnoxious. This is so obnoxious. I don't even know if I read this whole synopsis. Even after investing, wasting 6 years of their life on the guy who was supposed to be the one. So I traded in my halo for a pair of horns. Hello, world. Clover Kelly is single and ready to mingle. I'm so upset we share a name. Kelly, not Clover. Then it happened. I suddenly found myself starring in the dating game to beat all dating games. While pouring out my heart to my best friend, my new quest for lust is accidentally broadcast live on the radio. Yay, me. I'm not adding anything to it. Like I am reading this straight from, and there's so many exclamation points. Like, I love exclamation points, but this is like reading a really long text message. Yeah. Did I mention my best friend is an uber famous radio personality and a guy? A really hot guy? Yeah, his face isn't plastered all over town simply for his name. When the request to win my heart came pouring in and became date after horribly bad date, I couldn't help but wonder, could he? Could we? I mean, I'm already breaking all the rules. What's a girl gotta do to get lucky? Oh, God. You know, I mean, however you feel about the book, we're going to talk about that in a second. I feel like the synopsis is just so out of hand. Like, I don't judge a book by its synopsis. Let's put it out there. You know how people say don't judge a book by the cover, but in this case, the synopsis is not my fave. Okay, so overall, let's talk about what anybody liked about the book. What are some of the things that stood out to you? Characters, story, whatever it might be.
I actually did like that they switched perspective. I think it was just her and Austin were the only two perspectives, but it went back and forth. I thought that was kind of interesting Because I guess, you know, as a newbie, I sort of assume most romances are always going to be from the female point of view. So it's interesting to have that point of view.
This is actually a very popular format for contemporary romance, at least, is to have the dual perspective between, if you're talking about a heterosexual romance, between the male character and the female character. But I think the idea is that you, as a woman, as a reader, predominantly going to be women reading these books, that you identify more with the female character. So if it is told in first person, it is most of the time told from the woman's point of view.
Yeah. Some of the writing to me was a little cheesy, but what I did think was very relatable was, I at least in my life, I've had crushes on some of my guy friends.
Sure.
So to me, that was very relatable, that you have a close friendship, and then something happens, and it goes a little too far, and you pass, you know, a boundary that you can't come back from, or, you know, someone is trying to date the other person, and you're giving them advice, but really you're giving them the advice that, you know, you want to end up with them. So I thought that that was a pretty relatable part of the story.
Yeah, it's definitely a very contemporary look at, like, the awkwardness of dating today.
Right.
So I feel like if anybody is single, or if even if you're not single, if you've ever dabbled in dating apps or just had a lot of bad dates, like, this book will be, I feel like, a fun ride for you. Like, you'll definitely be able to connect with our main character, Clover.
I guess part of me too was I was reminded in not a very positive way of the dating app. Such a nightmare. So, however, I will say I did like that part where she actually got to see the people in person.
Yeah.
Because it takes the people out of the app, out of fantasy, and puts them into real life.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, I think the switching back and forth was a little confusing within the dialogue because she was talking to her best friends, and maybe I missed a couple quotes, so I was kind of like, where are these people coming from? And then I was like, oh, these are the best friends.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and there's a lot of characters in this one, too. Like, I mean, you have Clover and Austin, but then you have the 50 dates that Clover goes on in one book, you know, and her friends, and then Owen, the like, producer of Austin's show. I mean, it really is a lot of people, so I definitely understand, like, having trouble keeping track of who's who in this one.
I sort of enjoyed, there were a lot of parts where I just wanted to like face palms. I was like, oh my gosh, like this would never happen. But then I was like, oh my gosh, this would never happen. Like,
yes.
Let's like see what happened.
Yeah, for real. This is like face palm emoji. Yeah. Like all throughout this book, for sure. I think, and you mentioned it too about it being like there'd be parts that were cheesy. That was kind of my feeling too, was like, it's what I would call a cute romance. Right. Like, I think it's like, you know how there's like we talked about cozy mysteries before we started podcasting. If cozy is to mystery, this is like to cute romance. Like, it's very fun. It's very cute. It's pretty PG-13, I feel like.
It's very feel good.
Yeah, for most of the story. Very feel good. It does border on cheesy, sort of like Hallmark Channel cheesy to me at times.
I got that vibe.
Other times, though, I thought it was like I would giggle. Like, there were moments where I'm like, oh, ha ha ha. Like, other moments would be like facepalm emoji. Like, for real, I'm with you on that one. How did you feel about, especially speaking as a group of women that gather, how did you feel about the group of girlfriends in this book? So we have Clover, our main character, and then her two besties are Mal and CJ. And I feel like the author did a really good job of kind of writing different personalities for all of them. What did you think about that?
I felt like I wanted more.
Yeah.
And maybe this is because there's more books to come, so
sure.
they intentionally left some things very open, but like the book ended and I was like, but what about Mal? Like, what was wrong with her? We never figured that out. So that must be, my guess is the next book.
I think she's the next book. That would be my guess. I think it's going to be her, and I think her love interest is going to be Owen.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
That's like all that, she was like on the phone with him, and then she
got
fired or whatever, and then, I don't know.
There's something going on there. There's something happening, and I think it's going to be Mal and Owen next, personally. How about CJ? CJ was kind of like the the more kind of go with the flow, you know. Her advice to Clover for anything is go have sex with him. Go have sex with somebody. Like,
funny friend.
She's the Samantha of the group, you know. I thought she was fun. I thought she could be like a little abrasive personally. Like, I was like, I don't know if that would be funny to me as a friend, or if I'd be like, oh my God, stop, leave me alone for once. I did like their mention of, there was a lot of funny things they say, like porn peen.
Yes.
Or Google dicks, like, oh, he sent you a Google dick. I'm going to add that to, like, my vocab. I love that. What about, we talked about the girls' relationships. What about the guys she dates? And I know there's going to be, like, some bad dating flashbacks here, but can you remember the worst or best, like, awful person she meets during her dating fiascos?
The plastic surgeon.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
The worst.
That one was so good. Give us a recap on the plastic surgeon.
So their date started at Hooters, right? So he could show off some of his work, and then they went to Victoria's Secret,
Right.
Yeah.
and
Because he asks her to model.
yeah, and then their goodnight
Underwear.
kiss, he just motorboats her.
I kept thinking, like, does she have no
And then he was taking
self-
pictures of her too.
Yeah.
The minute a guy takes me to Victoria's Secret and asks me to try on something for him, like,
Oh, see, you're generous. Like, I was done when they went to Hooters. Like, I was like, that's
the
it.
benefit of the
We're
doubt.
done.
He was a friendly guy, but after the Victoria, I was like, that's so demeaning. Like,
Yeah.
what was she thinking continuing the date?
And I don't know if that plays into, like, the cheesiness parts of the book, but that was kind of one of my peeves about the book was I felt like sometimes things would happen or people would make choices that I'm just like, that seems so unbelievable. Like, it just, like, the fact that she would stay on this date and be, like, talking to herself in her head, like, this is weird that he took me to Victoria's Secret to try on underwear. I mean, I guess he just, he's a plastic surgeon, like, he likes breasts. It's okay. Like, she's having this inner conversation about how weird this is, but she still
But you know
goes
what?
along
I kind
with
of
it.
felt like they built her character into the fact that she had no
So
self-worth.
naive.
Yeah, very
So
naive, very
naive.
vulnerable.
Yeah.
And bordering on, like, not having enough self-esteem.
Yeah.
And even, they were telling her that throughout the book that, you do deserve this. You do deserve having
Right.
this. And they had to convince her of that. So, to me, yeah, it was a little, like, what are you doing? But at the same time, I was like, some people really think that this is all that they have to offer. So I almost felt bad or, like, empathetic towards her at some point.
And I think that's the goal. I don't think, the author wants us to be like, what's wrong with this girl?
Right.
But there were definitely moments, and maybe that's just my jaded personality, being like, come on, girl. But we meet her at the very beginning, and she thinks she's getting engaged, and her boyfriend of 6 years not only breaks up with her, but has all of her stuff boxed up, ready to go. He's moving on to a new woman that we find out he's also gotten pregnant.
Right.
And she's like a model or something, right? Like, she's really hot. Yeah, so I mean, the fact that that's where you start from, if you've only been with that one person, for so long, I do understand how it could be. Like, she really is that naive.
Yeah. Or that, I kept thinking, like, they had said that her previous boyfriend of 6 years had a really small penis. And I was like, why did you stay for 6 years? Like, that's your first mistake.
We accept the love we think we deserve. Oh, no. Terrible.
Yeah. There were definitely things that, I felt the same way, like, oh my God, why is she staying? Why isn't she saying anything? But then there's also, like, sometimes your friends will call you after a date and they're like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. Like, I can't believe I, went to this place with him, or, didn't speak up for myself. Or sometimes in the moment, even though we're thinking it, like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing this.
Yeah.
But those are what make funny dating stories.
Which brings me to the point that everybody should listen to the My Worst Date podcast. They podcast here out of LA, and they take submissions from people about their worst dating experiences. These are my girls. I love them. So if you haven't checked them out, you definitely should. And they should, this book, like every date that Clover goes on in this book, that would be like a submission to My Worst Date for sure. So the way we get into the dating, we'll just cover a little bit more of the plot so people kind of keep up, is that Clover's been dumped. She goes to tell her friend Austin, her best friend. I really do love their relationship. Like, just that they've been friends for so long, and he happens to also be, it's Mal's brother, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it seems like she and that Clover and Austin were friends before Clover and Mal were friends. That was sort of the impression I got. And I thought that was so cute. I love it. But she goes to tell him sort of, I'm ready to just fuck around. Like, let's get this guy out of my system. And unfortunately broadcast that over the air of his very popular Dr. Feelgood radio show. You know, I have to say, I was like, I know, like, the whole Dr. Feelgood thing, but I'm like, that's the most original thing we could come up with for this guy. Right, like, Dr. Feelgood, you know, but he's, you know, a dating and sex expert, at least on his radio show, and kind of a womanizer. And from there, they decide to do a, I guess, promotional thing for the station and for the show is for Clover to then go on 50 dates, 50 mini speed dating dates, and choose a few guys, continue dating them, and hopefully get lucky, because she's unlucky in love. Oh, God. Have any of you ever done speed dating?
No.
I really
have you? Oh my gosh, I've always wondered, like, because I think it sounds like such a great idea, personally. Like, I know, like, in movies and shows, they make it, like, super shady, but I'm like, this is great. You get in, you get out, like, you know, if you want to keep talking to somebody. Well, what did you think of it?
So 2 of my girlfriends and I decided to do it. So we were sitting right near each other. So
good.
That was good, but it was also not good because we were right next to each other. So one of my friends would like chime in on the conversation. But I mean, you know right away. You know in 2 seconds. If you know if this is someone that you're interested in. There were 3 of us girls, and we did not find anyone that we wanted to go out with. But I mean, it was fun, and it was a quick and easy kind of thing. And especially if you're going with friends.
Yeah.
Then we just went out after. So
yeah, you're already out.
Yeah,
you know, man. Yeah, no, I don't know. Like, to me, as somebody who's kind of played the apps way and found that to be just so like facepalm. Talk about facepalm. I don't know. I think it'd be a nice kind of alternative, but. Maybe that should be a new SheSquad LA event. Speed date. We gotta find the SheSquad LA or the They Squad LA. Like, that'd be great.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Just ideas for future events, obviously. I personally, the date that I just could not deal with was the one named Joey Tribbiani. Because I'm a big Friends fan. Anybody else a Friends fan? Okay. So, and when there was like the moment where, I forget, was it Clover and Austin where they were talking about safe words? Yeah. Because he was saying, come up with a safe word, and then that way you can say it, and like I'll know it's a bad day, and I can like come save you or whatever. And she's like, my safe word is going to be 7. Yes. And I was like, what a terrible safe word. Like, that's crazy. And so, but it leads into that whole date of, if you're a Friends fan, you'll get the reference of 7, 7, 7, 7, 7. And that happens on the date. And I was like, oh, okay. That's where we were going with this. Like, so yeah, it did seem a little forced to me personally, but I was like, okay, at least it played out. Right. Yeah, so that's good. How do we feel about Kramer the bird / dog / alarm?
Best part of
Everybody loves the bird. This is our second book we've read in the last month that has some sort of parrot or cockatoo.
Really?
Yeah, and they both of them, in one book, the bird thought it was a cat, so they always called it like a cat. And then in this one, he acted like a dog. So I was like, it's a lot of identity crises happening for birds. Yeah, Kramer the bird. I personally like Austin's relationship with Kramer the bird, too. Mm-hmm. Who wants to talk about Austin? Tell me about what you think about Austin. You like him?
I like him.
Yeah? Would you date him?
It took me a while to warm up to him.
Okay.
Because I feel like from the beginning it was like, oh, clearly he loves Clover. And
right.
He's like in denial, whatever. Whereas Clover, I was like, okay, she's just stupid.
Or clueless. I feel like clueless is the word.
Like, Austin was just in straight denial, and I was just like, bro, like, man up.
Yeah.
Like, dude's got all these opportunities, and you're just sitting here with this bird, which is awesome. Like, come on.
Yeah, because he basically trades in the women for the bird when Clover needs a place to stay. She stays with him. Yeah. He stops sleeping around all of a sudden. Right. Like, coincidence? I don't think so. And then he starts hanging out with her bird/dog/alarm system. Yeah, I'm with you. They were both so... It was one of those ones where everybody knows that they both love each other, except for them. And I guess I was kind of waiting for them to have that moment or, like, the realization sooner.
Probably, like, the dream, the sex dream
sequence.
I thought that was real.
I thought, So this makes total sense.
Yeah. It did feel kind of sudden, though, didn't it? Like,
yeah, like,
dream.
really. Yeah. Like, they just, this is supposed to be what's happening. We're together now. That's
sort of how it went for me, was like, we've read books for the podcast before where it's very much like, you don't really see them falling in love. It's more of like, they just start hooking up. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden they're together. And you're like, okay. This one was kind of like the opposite, where it was like, they love each other. They say they love each other. They've been friends, best friends, forever. There will always be some sort of love there. But then they go from being friends to we're together, like, so suddenly at the end that, I don't know, I felt like something was missing. Like, it also felt kind of, like, short. Did you notice that on your Kindle, that, like, it finishes at, like, 85% into the book? Yeah. And then there's, like, previews for another book, and I'm like, well, that's great, but I want to finish this one. Like, is this the end? So, I don't know. I felt a little unsatisfied with the ending. Like, yes, it's a happily ever after, and they get together, great, but... Yeah, I don't know. It felt like the pacing, I guess, is what I would say, was, like, off a little bit.
And, like, with all the dates she goes on, the two of them never actually go on a date.
Right. Yeah. I know. Like, when Owen stepped in to be her final date, I thought that was going to be the moment for Austin to step in. Same. To, like, date her and realize... Again, very Friends-like, when, like, Joey and Rachel date, he's like, oh, this is great. I mean, I don't support Joey and Rachel, like, at all. But that's sort of, it was sort of weird. Like, I thought the whole introduction of Owen being like the love triangle thing, I don't know. How'd you guys feel about that?
I don't know. That felt weird to me because at first I was like, if she ends up with him after the whole thing with Austin, I'm going to be really mad. And that's what I thought. I was like, this is the curveball that they're throwing us. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't like Owen was a bad guy. In fact, I think she was even surprised with her interest in Owen. But to me, I was already, like, on the track that, like, no, her and Austin are meant to be. Right. So anything other than that was going to be, like, unsatisfied to me.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like the introduction of Owen being, like, a potential suitor came very far into the book. Like, it would have been different, I feel like, if like, earlier on they had some sort of, like, flirtation or interaction or something. But it was very much, like... him swooping in, and to be clear, Owen is Austin's radio show producer / friend. Right. And it felt like he stepped in to be her third date when Austin, like, kicked out her third date, basically, for wanting to be, like, Instagram famous. And rightfully so, I feel like. I'm okay with that.
Right, I was fine with that.
Yeah. But then she and Owen, like, actually date. And I'm like, oh, this isn't okay. You need to be with the other one. Like, what are you doing, Clover?
I think I was upset with her for other reasons because that was her best friend's crush, and she knew that. She was still going on a date with this guy, and I'm like, well, okay, maybe the first date just because for the Instagram the contract, but then you go on another date without talking it out with your girlfriend, like,
that's a great point. Yeah. That goes against the rules of, feminism. Friendship. Basic friendship. Yeah. I watched Mean Girls the other day. That's why it's like in my head. That's like against the rules of feminism. No, I'm with you on that. Her going out with Owen was interesting. Like I said, I do think Owen and Mal are going to have a book. I think it's going to be about the two of them, which makes me kind of wonder who CJ is going to get.
The Shark Tank guy.
The Shark Tank guy? Yeah, you think so? I think that's a good bet. See, you sound like you have read romance. Like, it sounds like you're picking up on all the little clues here.
Well, okay. My whole conspiracy theory. So when she's at the house with Owen and he pulls out the Stellas, and she's like, oh, Mal turned me on to those drinks. I'm like, wait a second. Ooh. Mal turned you onto those drinks. They're in his fridge. Is something else already happening here that we don't know about? Well, we'll see.
Yeah. Well, and that could be the case. Is like maybe in the second book it'll pick up like halfway through this book, but we'll just see like different characters, kind of what's going on with them. Right. Could be. We'll have to wait and see. Okay, so what else? What did we maybe not love about the book or wish had been different? I mean, we've kind of talked about it's a little cheesy, on the cheesy side sometimes. It can go from fun to cheesy. We've talked about how it takes forever for Clover and Austin to like kind of declare their feelings for each other and get together. Let alone have sex.
Right.
Oh my gosh, that's a long wait. Like, talk about a slow burn.
Right.
Like, this is like the slowest of slow burns. But what else? What were you maybe hoping for something a little different, or moments that kind of like ticked you off?
I mean, there was a lot of cheese.
Yeah.
It definitely had that cheesy factor, and like we talked about before, things that we would never do, that someone, a normal person would never be like, oh, let's just do that, And then on the cover, it even says, it like points it right out there. It's like, obviously, yes, two characters are going to fall in love, but I think it puts it right out there. I forgot what it said, but it's like a best friend romance or something like that. And I was like, you don't need to write that.
Okay, so you didn't want to know that it was going to be about friends falling in love.
No, I mean, I think I would have picked it up on, maybe the second page.
Yeah.
I didn't think that on
You're like, way to ruin the surprise.
I mean, yeah, after the first chapter, did anyone not see where I thought it was very predictable?
Yes.
Oh,
and
yeah,
that's why when they threw Owen in there, I was like, okay, no. Where did that come from?
That was the more unpredictable thing.
Right.
And honestly, that's why both people love and don't love romance. I feel like some people like me like to pick up romance because it's going to end well. Like, where this is going. These two people, oh my God, they're not together. Who cares? Why not? By the end of the book, they will be together and be happy, And then other people are like, well, what's the point of reading it then if I already know how this is going to turn out? So, I mean, there's definitely going to be, like, the predictability to it. But you're right. Like, the Owen thing was, I feel like, a wrench in the works for a little while.
Mm-hmm. I think, like you said earlier, it just felt like it sort of wrapped up really, really quick at the end.
Yeah.
And then it has, like, the epilogue where he proposes, and I was like, wrapped everything up really fast.
It was a cute proposal.
Yeah, of course, because Kramer was there.
Kramer, the best character in the whole book. I was surprised to say, and I'll get your grades and reviews and everything of the book too, but I have to say I was really surprised to see that this book has such glowing reviews, like on both Amazon and Goodreads. On Amazon, 75% of the customer reviews give it 5 out of 5 stars. On Goodreads, 57% of reviewers mark it as a 5-star book.
How many reviews, though? Because if it's like 7 reviews...
No, on Amazon, it was like a good 70 or 80.
Okay.
On Goodreads, it was over 100. Like,
Okay,
it was...
wow.
And you know what? It's one of those ones where I just kept thinking, I was like, am I just reading this wrong? Like, is it me? Is everyone gonna, like...
Here's my question. What were the ages of the reviewers?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Because our we're a little bit kind of like, I would say like maybe mid-30s and above. Like if it was like maybe a teen romance, yeah, I could see that. But maybe for someone like, what's the age group of the reviewers?
No, that's a good point, because I feel like you're right in that it does feel like it's skewed a little more PG-13, like young adult romance than actual like adult romance, I guess. Like, but okay, so I totally get that. We don't know. I don't know their ages, but did you guys get that vibe too? That it was like maybe a little more on the younger side?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, I can see that. The characters are older.
Because
they're
in
not
their
like teen characters.
No, she's 26, I think 26, 27, and he's 30.
But it just feels like everybody's maturity is like a little lower. Teens and early 20s, like reading it and being like, yeah, this is what adulthood is going to be like.
Right.
Like, gold. Oh my God, no, that's so true. Like, okay, have you ever seen that show? And I love it, but have you ever seen that show, The Bold Type?
Yes, I love it.
Okay, who said it? You did. Okay. I love it too, but it's one of those shows where I'm like, these girls are supposed to be like post-college, and they're all like 23, 24, and they have sick-ass jobs at this magazine, and I'm like,
this is great and like very aspirational, but like so false.
How on Friends they had like the great apartment, city, great apartment, like very kind of unrealistic for younger. Well, like whatever, but
yeah. No. I feel it though. I think you're right. It does feel, and I don't think it's intended to be for younger audiences. So I don't know about that one, but I feel like if they hadn't mentioned the characters' ages, I would have assumed they were like 22, 23.
Right, early
like,
20s for sure.
Yeah. Because it does seem very sort of, I don't know, like, I don't know how to put it. I know we mentioned how Clover has her very like unbelievable naive moments. I have to say, I liked Austin a lot more than Clover throughout the book until he started acting like he was like sick and hurt and stuff. And then again, it was like the maturity level, boom, like way down, you know? So, any thoughts on that?
I thought Clover was very strong in the beginning. When she was kind of discovering herself, and she takes the dildo and throws it at her ex. I need this to please your new woman.
Because it's got such a small peen.
But I feel like afterwards, it's still kind of with that theme, like she needs a man to discover herself and feel empowered, and so that kind of bummed me out, and again, made Austin more of a likable character until all of the not speaking up for yourself and getting the girl.
No, but that's a good point, too, that it is very much about her finding somebody else. Although, I mean, they try and make it very focused on the fact that she's not looking for another relationship. She's looking to get laid. Like, it's very much about, like, sexual empowerment. But, I mean, in the end, she ends up with another guy, you know? We don't really see much either of, like, her professional life or really, like, anybody's professional life other than Austin's. So I thought that was interesting. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but I feel like it would have been nice to maybe see another side of Clover at least. Yeah, so that's me. I thought this was a really good Amazon review. This speaks to me. This book will have you mad, angry, and ready to smack people. It will also have you laughing so hard your sides hurt and making you wish you had best friends like these. And I feel like that's kind of accurate, is that it's fun, there's good characters, lots of fun different types of relationships, but I was also very frustrated, like a lot of the book, both with when are these two characters going to get together, and also like why are you making these poor decisions over and over and blasting them on Twitter. Oh god, that was like the worst thing about it. Did you guys notice the author's subtle cameo in the tweet that she has? One of the tweets that Clover writes, or no, it's that the author writes. The author like supposedly retweets one of Clover's tweets in the book.
I didn't pick up on that.
Yeah, it's so small. It's like, because there's constant part of the agreement of her doing the dating with the radio show is that they have to take pictures and send tweets and everything. So Cary Hart actually includes these tweets that they're writing in the book. And there's one where they show that her tweet had been retweeted by user Cary Hart. And then here's your cheese factor. Clover makes the comment of, "Oh my gosh, I love her books. She should write a story about me and this situation I'm in." That was the moment I highlighted it and I was like, oh, no you didn't. Oh gosh. How about, let's talk about the sex. Let's talk about the naughty bits. Thoughts?
There was like not.
I wanted more.
There was like
not enough.
Yeah, like there was the dream, and there was when they actually had sex, but there was never. I wanted more like build up. Like he held my hand. Not necessarily like he held my hand, but something more like sensual, I guess. And let's just like, here we go.
Yeah. Well, and we kind of touched on this, is that usually in what we call a slow burn romance, it's that it's very slowly building up to the moment where it's like, boom, the explosion, you know? And I think you're right. I don't think there was much of a build up. It was very much, we're friends, but we like secretly harbor these feelings that we don't know about for some reason. And then there weren't these little moments of like, you know, I mean, they have the kiss on the couch, but she's drunk and doesn't remember it. He has like a sexy dream about her. she doesn't know about that. So, I mean, it was a lot of, like, one-sidedness, I feel like. I would have liked a little bit more leading up to it, too. But they do finally have sex, and he's got a porn peen. I thought that was pretty funny.
I feel like the author was definitely obsessed with penises. Like, she definitely made a point. Like, her ex had the small, the love interest had the big. I was like, okay, she has
so this is
here.
based on true events. Okay, yeah, that's what I like to hear. Did you, I mean, when you came into reading this, especially as most of you hadn't read romance, or if you had, you'd read 50 Shades of Grey, which is a very different heat level than this book. Did you feel like you had specific expectations about the heat and the intimacy and the sex level, like coming in to reading a romance?
I thought the first chapter, I thought we were going to see more of the sex scenes.
In the first chapter.
Yeah, well, her friend CJ is telling her, you know, she's kind of building it up in the first chapter, and I was like, okay, here we go. This is going to be like 50 Shades of Grey. We're back at it. But then, like you said, the rest of the book was very PG, and so, yeah, they have a sex scene at the end, but I was kind of waiting for the build-up and more of it. Right. And, yeah, just a little spicier. It was a little too PG for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody else? The cover, though, also had something. I mean, if I think of, like, Harlequin romances where, like, the lady with the flowing hair and her, you know, boobs are kind of... Her shirt's not
quite tied all the way.
So, I mean, with that kind of cover, I'm definitely like, we're going to be rocking and rolling in this. It's kind of like, oh, I've got a friend romance. Like, oh. It was a very kind of, like, PG. It really was. It was a cute...
So you came in automatically thinking like, oh, this is going to be more of like a cute, fun love story as opposed to more
so if I was expecting that, which I was, maybe would have a 4.5, 5. I can see that rating. But if you're expecting like this crazy love making and whatnot, you're not going to.
Then if you're setting yourself up for disappointment, for sure. I'm sorry that there wasn't chapter 1 boning. I wish there was.
Yeah, but maybe like 3 or 4.
You know what? There are romances where like you will open it to page 1 and they are in the middle of sex. Like they just dive right in there. So we got to find you one of those.
Okay.
I feel like that's for you. Yeah. Okay, was there, I mean, this is normally the part of the show where I would say, let's read our favorite excerpt from the book. And I feel like we don't have a lot to choose from, but we do have the first and final sex scene. And then I actually really like their makeout scene and then also Austen's dream about her, too. I thought the dream was even better. Yeah. Maybe it's because it's coming from the guy's point of view. I don't know what that says that we like his perspective more. Did anybody want to grace us with a reading? Don't all volunteer at once. I think this is the one that I marked was it was leading up to it's when they first start having sex, which mind you, I'm looking at my book is at 80% of the way into the book, and the book ends at 86%. So it's very different in terms of like the structure of a romance, because traditionally they'll like get together, have like their moment together, and then much like in a rom-com you would see there's the moment of like, oh no, we can't be together, or there's a misunderstanding about something. This one was like they had sex and then they were together and then it was over. Right. So very different. Okay, here we go. I saw ass and cock, so we're ready. She whimpers as her legs fall open, inviting me in. I tease us both, sliding my throbbing cock through her folds. Who giggled at cock?
I just think it's funny that they say cock and then they can't say vagina. Like they're like her folds.
Yeah.
Never say vagina.
You know why? Because I'm like, what's the sexy equivalent? That's what I want to know. What's the sexy word for vagina?
I think they say pussy, don't they?
No. Yeah.
Is that not sexy? Is it too like not classy?
I don't know. It's not to me, maybe, but I feel like you're right.
To me,
folds is it?
Too many folds.
I happen to like the word cunt a lot, so that's me. I mean, plus cock, cunt, I'm like, they're both C words. It's perfect. Back and forth again and again until her eyes close and her hands wrap around my ass trying to get closer. Just the tip is too much, but I need more. I need her. Chloe, look at me, baby, I whisper. She opens her eyes just as I drive all the way in, my eyes locked on hers as I thrust. A gasp leaves her throat and a moan rumbles in my chest. Are you okay? Yes. It's a simple, satisfying reply. Slow, steady pumps allow me to learn her body, to claim it. Pump you, pump R, pump mine. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but that was something I highlighted a few times, and it's actually
super possessive.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, but the other thing is that she writes in like these 3-line segments. Did you see that too? Yes. Like it's even in the preview for the other book at the very end, she would write like these 3-word lines of like hot, sexy, yeah, and then it would like go into like talking, and then it'd be like beautiful, love it, like, you know. But I'm just like, it happens so often. I was like, I guess this is just her writing style, like a lot of pumping. But like same page, faster, harder, deeper. Demand, she cries out in the throes of passion. Like,
yeah, she likes 3s.
Rule of 3s
felt a lot like it was trying to be 50 Shades a little bit. It kind of pulled into that a little, you know. So it would take me out of the story a little bit because of that.
In terms of like the possession?
Yeah.
Or, okay.
Possessiveness. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I didn't like his character as much when he was getting like that. I was like, no.
No alpha males.
Here.
We don't like the alpha males.
I do like that.
I like it a little bit, but it was at times it was too much. Yeah.
Well, and it, especially when he starts acting like, oh my god, I'm sick. Oh my god, I'm hurt. You can't leave. It goes from like being alpha male possessive to like being a child needing
I'm like,
mommy.
you can't be a little bitch and then be possessive and figure it out, you know?
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's take a quick wine and cheese break, and we'll be back with our ratings for Unlucky in Love. And we're back. And last little thing we've got to do for the podcast today is everybody here is going to give a brief little review of Unlucky in Love by Cary Hart. We talked about it a little bit before we started recording, but the way that we score books on this podcast is by story, syntax, and sexcapades. So on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the very best that it could possibly be, 1 being absolute garbage, we're all going to give Unlucky in Love 3 grades. So how about we start, Michelle? You've done this show before, so we'll start with you. And we'll just go around and start with story. So on a scale of 1 to 10, just for the story alone, what would you give Unlucky in Love?
For the story, I would say 7.
7. Okay, great. Respectable. A respectable 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. Had to get in one more Friends reference. Pressure's on.
I will give it a 6.
I was going to go 6 too.
6? Okay.
It was better than 5, but not as nice.
Okay.
I thought the story was kind of catchy, so I'll give it a 7.
Good, good.
I'll give it a 7.
7.
I'll go 6.
I'm a 7.
6.
Okay. And I was like a 6 or 7 too. So we're all in the same agreement, sort of same range. Okay, how about the syntax? How about Cary Hart's writing? I think about too, would you read another Cary Hart book? Did you like the tone, the style, her dialogue? Where do we land on syntax?
I think I would go a little lower on this. Maybe
Okay.
like a 5. There were times where I just felt like I was confused about like who's saying this, and I had to like read it a couple times.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd go 5.
Okay.
That's what I was thinking. That's my
5.
number.
4.
4.
I'm a 5.
5.
Oh, see, I would have gone higher.
Do it. You do you.
Like a 7.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the middle. I like the different way that she wrote it, but I was confused as well, so I'll say a 6.
I'll go 5.
I gave it a 7 too. The more we talked about it, I was like thinking about how I do feel like it was it didn't feel as romancy to me. Like it did feel like it was more of like a young adult story. But I definitely did laugh a lot. I feel like I liked a lot of like the quippy dialogue and everything, although it did border on cheesy at times. So that's where you lose me, my 3 points. Okay, and then the sexcapades, and take into account, Michelle's making a face, take into account, don't let Michelle sway you, the amount of the sexcapades. Was it enough? Did you want more? Did it feel well deserved? Did it feel well timed? And then also the quality.
This is hard.
We talked about this before, but the other review that Michelle did with us was for a pirate romance where they have sex at like 92% of the way into the book.
I'm gonna need that
so yeah, she's got a knack for getting the romances where they
nothing happens till the end.
Yeah, they wait a long time.
Yeah, so I was gonna give it a lower score because I have this expectation that I still think is probably true, that romance can probably be a little juicier than this was.
It can be.
I thought the, 2 scenes that there were, like, well done. But I would go 4.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with a 3.
Ooh, bringing it down. Okay.
I'll do 4, because there weren't that many, but I thought the ones that they had were
good.
done. Yeah.
Okay.
I was actually also in between a 3 and a 4, so 3.5.
I'll say 4.
I'll go 3.
Yeah, I think I'll agree with the 3.
4.
I gave it a 6.
Wow, generous.
Now, to be fair, I feel like several of you have only read 50 Shades of Grey in comparison. So if you are measuring that as the bar for which the level of heat is expected, definitely going to be a disappointment. Although I feel like Britt said it earlier, and it was a good point, that when you do look at the cover of this book, you don't necessarily... I didn't get a feel that it was going to be a super hot, steamy romance, and there is, in fact, a very wide range of romance called closed-door romance, where there is no sexual content. Like, it's very PG-13... They close the door, something happens behind closed doors, but we don't see it. So, but as far as like the sex they had, I thought it was really good. I feel like it came way too late and there wasn't enough build up. That was sort of like how I marked it down.
And she needs to say vagina instead of
I still feel like we need sexier words for vagina. Like, guys get such graphic words like cock, dick. I'm just like, not peen. Like, that's not it. Yeah, I think this was the most time I'd seen peen used in a book. But yeah, I'm like, women, we get pussy. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Cunt, okay. But people call each other cunts.
Right.
I'm like, vagina. Yeah.
It's better than folds. Or folds. I don't know, that really creeps me out.
Yeah, there's mound. That's another one that we use in romance. Not my favorite. I'm like, that seems like part of it, but not all of it. Like, anyway, these are just our notes on the words we're going to come up with for romance, for vagina. So now that we've kind of gone through everything with the book, I'd like to wrap up by just asking everybody, were you happy that this was, I don't even want to say the book I chose, because this was the book everybody, well, I don't want to say everybody, but the book that was voted on by SheSquad LA Book Club to read. Are you happy this is the book that you read?
I was. Yeah, it was a quick read.
Okay.
It was a quick, fun read. I think it was. It's always nice to read something light once in a while.
Yeah.
I agree.
So it was lighthearted. It was a summery beach read, if you will.
Yeah,
Yes.
for real. That's a good way to put it too. So maybe, I mean, I know we didn't have like 10s across the board, but were you satisfied, I guess, overall with the reading experience and the book club experience with UnLucky in Love?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Definitely.
I could see us reading more romance in the future.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what I want to hear. That's what I want to hear. Gosh, I know. I'm curious. You say maybe read more romance in the future. Would you necessarily want to read more? Like, are you interested to find out what happens with the characters in this series? Like, do you want to see what happens with Mal and CJ and whatever else Cary Hart comes up with?
I do.
Yeah.
Just because I feel like it wasn't flushed out enough for me in
Yeah.
this book, so I'm just like, just for my peace of mind. So
Right.
I like, know what happened instead of me continuing to guess.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I'm with you. I do. I want to read the next ones if they're about Mal and CJ. Like, I feel like they have to be, but we'll see. I'm with you. We can read them. We'll discuss them and report back to the group.
I would like to see a romance novel that's not as PG-13 as this one, but not as, graphic as 50
but
Shades.
you
like,
want
your
sex in chapter 1. That's what you want.
Chapter 3 or 4, like a little bit later, warm us up a little bit. But I mean, this was very, to me, amateur, or like we said, lighthearted and fun.
Yeah.
I would like to see something in the middle where it's not like at the end.
Yeah.
We get our happy ending.
In more ways than one.
Right.
No, that's good. And you know what? Romance has so many different subgenres. Like, is there anything, and if anybody just wants to popcorn ideas out, are there any types of romance that you'd be interested in reading and just take into account, like, there really is something for every kink, for every interest, like motorcycle romance, sci-fi romance, you're going to have aliens, vampires, werewolves, shifters, anything along those lines. Contemporary versus period romance, historical romance, Victorian. I'm reading one right now about suffragettes. So, I mean, there really is a little bit of everything. Does any of that stand out to you, or if there's anything you're dying to read?
I've never thought about any of this.
You just open up a whole new bag of worms.
My mind is still processing all those possibilities.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm over vampires, so probably anything over that.
Yeah, I'm done with. That's probably why I feel like I don't read a lot of paranormal romance. Is I'm like, we had that phase. The whole Twilight, True Blood, everything going on there. So Teen Wolf. Oh no. I'm a sucker for a motorcycle romance. I'm just gonna put that out there. I also like sports romance a lot. Especially, I don't know why, but everyone is really hot on hockey romance. I don't know why hockey over the other sports, but hockey romance seems to be very popular nowadays. And
that's a very physical sport, so that makes sense.
Maybe that's it. But football is too. I don't know, but hockey's more international.
Some grace because they're skating.
Okay. It's more romantic on ice.
Yeah. Just rip the jerseys from the back and ripping it off. There's a lot of
yes, a lot of ripping. Okay. All right. Now I'm getting. I feel like we needed a hotter book for this group. That's the sense that I'm getting. The other one, the new one that I just started a series for is house flipping romance.
Oh wow.
Oh, wow. So specific.
I love it. Right? It's for everybody that watches HGTV and ships Joanna and Chip Gaines. They're like, oh, if I was a fly on that wall, God, shiplapped wall. That's what it would be. So, okay, cool. Well, it seems like everybody, I don't want to say everybody, but it seems like maybe there'll be some more romance in this group's future, and hopefully something a little raunchier next time, but no vampires. We'll take that into account. And then obviously for anybody that's in the Los Angeles area, how can they catch up on or join in on the SheSquad LA fun?
So for women in LA, it's SheSquad LA private group on Facebook. We're also on Instagram at SheSquad LA, but kind of our headquarters, I guess, is Facebook. That's where we can all interact.
Awesome.
But if anyone would like to find us on either or both of those, that would be great.
Yeah, and we'll be sure to link back on our Facebook and Instagram too, just so everybody, all the ladies in LA, sorry gentlemen, but the ladies in LA have a place to come together.
One day they can start a HeSquad.
HeSquad, yeah.
I would also like to put an asterisk that we are open to people in the OC, because I'm
perfect.
County, so
perfect.
Just because we're not in LA doesn't mean we can be.
Oh yeah, no, anywhere close enough to LA that you could make it to an event if you wanted to.
And then once we have HeSquad LA, we can do our speed dating event.
Of course.
And find true love just like Clover.
Yeah.
Hashtag goals.